of the Spirit, conquering the word of God. We shouldn't despise, reject, and treat the word of God with contempt. But we accept it so that we are not destroyed, because that word is our life, is our health, and that word is our protection. And we need to accept the word. He that feareth the commandment shall receive reward, or shall be rewarded. Rewarded with wisdom, and rewarded with salvation, because the word of God gives wisdom. And the Bible tells us it is by that word we are made wise unto salvation. And the word brings grace to our life. I commend it to God and to the word of his grace. That was the prayer of Paul the apostle to the elders, or for the elders of the church at Ephesus. That the word of God, I'm committing you to God and to his word, which is able to build you up. That word produces grace and builds up the believer spiritually and in every other area of life. That's why as we come today, we need to pay heed to the word of God, accepting and mixing the word of God with faith, so that our hearts, our lives will receive the reward God has promised. In the book of this same Proverbs, in chapter 28, in verse 9, Proverbs 28, in verse 9, it says, he that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be abomination. The connection between the word of God and your prayer. If you reject the word, understand your prayer will be rejected. If you despise the word, God will despise your prayers. If you decide to do without the word of God, then ignorant praying will not be accepted by the Lord. But in that passage, when we pay attention to the word of God and give heed to the word of God, our prayers becomes a delight to the Lord. But those who reject the word of God and refuse to listen to the word of God, their prayers become disgusting and detestable to the Lord. And so the place of our prayer being answered is connected to our attitude to the word of God, our receptivity to the word of God, our reception of the word of God, our accepting and believing the word and living according to the word of God. And to that extent tonight, we're looking again at the dynamics of the New Testament church. A moving train that no power of the enemy could resist or withstand. Persecution couldn't stop them. Herod couldn't stop them. Herod could not stop them. The tyrants of the first century couldn't stop them. Powers of darkness could not resist the force, the fire, and the power of the New Testament church. And that is the kind of church the Lord wants us to be. As individual believers and as a corporate body, the Lord says he wants us to be a dynamic church, a spirit-filled church, a power-packed church, a sanctified church, a church that is moving in the will and power of God. And that's why, number one, you find that church. It was a groaning church, a church that carried prayer burden, and every action was undergirded by prayer. Everything they did through the spirit of prayer. Everything in their preaching, in their ministries, in their teaching, in everything they did as they founded prayer, they introduced that church planting by praying. They started with praying. As we look at this church, we need to understand that prayer was the life breath and the lifeblood of the New Testament church. And this was their commitment, and this was their consecration. It was their decision and their devotion to give themselves to prayer and to the ministry of the word. Look at Acts in chapter 6. Acts of Apostles chapter 6 in verse 4. But we the apostles. What is the fundamental ministry of the leaders in the church and workers in the church? But we, who are the we? The ministry of the leadership and the apostleship, the ministry of workers in the church. A prayerless worker is the enemy of God in the church. A prayerless member is an enemy, an ally of the adversary of the church. You find in this passage, but we will give ourselves consistently and continually and committedly to prayer and to the ministry of the word of God. Prayer first, then preaching follows. Prayer first, and every other activity follows, because any prayerless activity will be useless, worthless, and fruitless in the sight of God. It is the life force and the life breath of any real meaningful progress in the church. See, a life that is dynamic, a life that is powerful. Check the life, the secret of that life. It is the place of prayer, and the power of prayer, and the force of prayer, and the possibilities of prayer in the life of such a one. We, the apostles, others can do other things and get busy with some other activities, but the core thing and the central thing for us is to give ourselves, devote ourselves, commit ourselves, consecrate ourselves continually and committedly to prayer and to the ministry of the word of God. Everything they did was precipitated by prayer. Show up and glorify himself, and there will be fruit in their activities. They started the church with prayer. Before Pentecost, they prayed. Can you look at Acts in chapter 1? Acts chapter 1 from verse 13. Acts chapter 1 from verse 13. And when they were come in, after they saw Jesus up to glory, and they came back to Jerusalem, in verse 12, then returned they unto Jerusalem from the mount called Olivet, which is from Jerusalem a Sabbath day's journey. And when they were come in, they went up. Can I remind you, if you're going to go up in the grace of God, and go up in the power of God, and go up in fellowship with God, and go up in the possibilities of God, if you're going to make any progress in your Christian life, in any area, went up where? Into the upper room, not the supper room. When you come, don't get busy with material externalities. Get busy with the spiritual realities. Upper room, where there's a place of power, and where the people see the visions of God, and the place where you have an encounter with the